Once upon a time in a village called Ayanfe in the east of the old lands, where the trees grow wider than four men's arms linked together, and the wind carries stories from one hill to another, something was happening. If you ask any man who has ever wandered near the village borders, his eyes will grow wide, his voice will lower. They don't court men in Ayanfe, he will whisper, they hunt them. Ayamfe was not like other villages. In most places, men led the councils, chose their own brides, and held the staffs of power. But in Ayanfe, the women he holds the power, and the men follow behind like slaves. Here, when a woman set her eyes upon a man and her spirit agreed, she didn't ask. She didn't send gifts or dance at moon festivals. She simply gathered her sisters, tied red wrappers around their waists, and dragged the man into her hut before sunset turned to night. Some said it was a blessing. Others said it was a curse born from a forgotten goddess who once walked the land, betrayed by her lover and sworn never to let a woman beg for love again. Either way, the men of Ayamfe hid. Young men wore clay masks, pretending to be elders. Boys wrapped themselves in raffia skirts, walking among masqueraders to escape attention. Hunters built underground dens. Some even smeared palm oil and pepper on their bodies to smell undesirable. But still, the women found them. Because the women of Ayamfe were sharp-eyed, they could smell men, they smell there, taste fear, and hear longing in silence. At the center of the village lived Ajuma, the daughter of the late chief priestess. She was tall, with skin dark as fresh rain-soaked earth, and eyes that looked straight through bone and pride. Men feared her more than any spirit, or any of the other women. Ajuma did not run with giggles like the other maidens. She walked like a lioness on a quiet hunt. It was said that when she touched a man's shoulder, his knees forgot how to stand. Her hut was painted with red clay and charcoal, sacred signs that no man had entered it without her calling. And she had never called, not until the stranger came. He arrived on a late Harmattan afternoon, walking with a carved Ojin drum slung across his back. His name was Obiora, and he came from across the river Amii. His wrapper was blue with white eagle patterns, his chest bare, his smile careless. His dark skin shimmered with sweat, but what truly silenced the village were the tattoos inked across his shoulders, chest, and down his arms. Sacred symbols, sharp lines, and coiled shapes that looked like ancient marks of power. Old men watching from behind palm trees muttered, "Ah, this one doesn't know where he is." Obiora didn't care. When Obiera arrived in the village, he simply sat down without saying a word. The women of the village soon gathered around him, curious and cautious. "Where do you come from?" one of them asked. "What land do you belong to? We want you to come with us." But Obiera said nothing. He remained seated, as if deaf and mute, refusing to rise or answer. The women tried to drag him away from that spot, but no matter how hard they pulled, he would not move. As they struggled, something strange happened. The tattoo on Obiera's body began to shift and change. One woman reached out to touch the tattoo, but the moment her fingers brushed it, she was jolted as if by an electric shock and stumbled backward. Another tried, then another, but each was met with the same mysterious force, causing them to pull their hands away in fear. This strange power frightened them deeply. For 2 or 3 days, Obiera stayed in the same place, quietly playing his drum. The women tried again to touch him, but he remained untouched and unmoved. The sound of the drum echoed through the village, filling their minds with unease. Unable to understand what was happening, the women finally went to Ajuma and told her about the stranger and his strange drum. Ajuma had heard the drum beats before but had paid them no mind. Now, urged by the women, she decided to see for herself.
Decided to see for herself. When she got there, she asked him, "Who are you? Why are you here?" And to everyone's surprise, he answered, "I am called Obora," he said, "and I have come to choose a woman. It is not for a woman to choose me. I have come to choose. I will sit here and play the drum. The women will dance, and among them I will select one." Angered by his words, Ajuma stormed back to her house. But the other women, intrigued, began to dance around Obira from morning till night. Still, he did not choose any of them. Watching silently, Ajuma finally decided to join in the dance herself. As she moved, Obira rose to his feet. "I choose you," he declared. Ajuma smiled slyly. "You have gotten up. I tricked you." In her heart, Ajuma had thought if Obiera could be made to stand, he could then be dragged away. But Obiera's sudden movement was not a weakness, it was a choice. "Now that you have gotten up, I can drag you," she said. "No," Obiera replied firmly. "I have chosen you. Tell me to follow you, and I will." Mesmerized by him, Ajuma whispered, "Follow me." Obira rose and followed behind her. The entire village was left in shock. That night, the women of Ayamfe gathered at the edge of Ajuma's hut. "I don't understand," Nkem whispered. "Why didn't you drag him?" Ajuma sat quietly, legs crossed, beads around her ankle jingling softly. "He came." "You mean he let you choose him?" "No," she said. "He chose to be chosen." That was the first time anyone in Ayamfe had heard such a thing. Inside, Obiora sat near her clay shrine, carving symbols into a stick of camwood, humming, calm, unbothered. It unsettled the women and excited them. In a hut not far from the shrine, a group of women sharpened old rules like knives. "Ajuma is too bold," one spat. "She wants to twist the neck of our tradition." Another hissed, "The men will soon think we need permission." And one, older, bitter-eyed, whispered, "We must remind the village what happens when you let men believe they are equal to the hunt." And so, beneath the moon, a plan began to stir. The oldest among them, Egba, had silver braids tied into 7 knots, each knot representing a man she had dragged and broken. Her voice was gravel and smoke. "Ajuma must be reminded." "Of what?" asked Mama Dide, whose eyes had never once wept. "That Ayamfe is not a market of romance, that men do not walk, they are seized, that no man sets the rules," Egba hissed, "and no woman bends the tradition without blood answering." They nodded. A plan was born, and by dawn, the sacred drum was missing. Obiora's drum was no ordinary thing. Carved from Iroko wood and lined with the skin of a lioness slain during eclipse, it was believed to carry the voice of ancient spirits. 3 days he had played it, and none in the village had slept. And now it was gone. Ajuma stood outside her hut, eyes blazing. The loss was not only an insult, it was a declaration of war. "Who dares?" she asked the wind. The air answered not with words, but with silence. Obiora emerged from her doorway, bare-chested, his tattoos moving like shadows beneath his skin. He looked around, then he said, "Let me go to them." Ajuma snapped around. "They want to shame you. They want you to crawl." "I will not crawl," he said. "I will walk and speak. Then you may never return." Obiora smiled faintly. "Then let them hear the sound of my voice, when there is no drum to silence it." The village square was a circle of tension. Women lined the perimeter, young and old, fierce and watchful. The drum sat in the center, untouched, but surrounded by calabashes of red sand, signaling sacred judgment. To touch it uninvited was to declare oneself a challenger of tradition. Obiora stepped into the circle, his feet pressed into the sand as if claiming the earth. I see, he said calmly. You fear the sound of choice. Gasps rippled. I played the drum and it woke something, not just in women, in men, in truth. You don't fear me. You fear that the old way has become a chain, not a crown. Egba stood, her silver braids like ropes of thunder. You insult Ayamfe. No, Obiora replied. I honor it enough to tell the truth. Your strength once protected women, but now some of you use it to protect power. And that is not the same. A young girl near the front, barely 14, whispered, He speaks like the gods. And suddenly the first calabash cracked, then a second, then a third. The elders gasped. The ritual had never responded this way before. Ajuma stepped forward now, bare feet crushing the last calabash beneath her heel. Enough games, she said. Let women continue to choose, but let men walk with dignity into that choice. A union is strongest when neither is chained. Obiora sat behind her, not as a prize, not as a possession, but as a partner. Not all women agreed with the new way. Some whispered that the old ways were better, that softness would bring weakness, that men would soon forget the fear that kept them years past. Girls grew into women and were taught not just how to drag, but how to call. Boys grew into men and were taught that dignity did not mean silence. And Obiora's drum is still played, sometimes loud, sometimes soft, but always in rhythm with a new ayam. A village no longer ruled by fear or conquest, but by the graceful, powerful pull of choice.